Hello everyone, this is Kelly with Bayer Crop Science. I am having technical difficulties, so I'm actually calling in from my cell phone. So hopefully everyone can hear me okay and that this is coming through. If you could just let me know that you're here, type in a question or a chat, and I will try my best on my cell phone to answer those questions. So I am here today to talk a little bit about my journey and my role at Bayer Crop Science and how I got here. So if you are looking to connect with me, my social channels are on Twitter. We have, my handle is KBristowRD. And on Instagram, I'm Kelly Bristow RD. So I would love for you to be able to, follow along. I try and post as much as I can about modern agriculture as well as just everyday life. So would love to see you there. Please, like I said, ask questions as we go through this. Want to keep it really informal and hopefully can answer those questions. So to get things kicked off, just a little about myself personally. I am based in St. Louis, and I was born and raised here, so been here my whole life. And my husband and I live on the hill in the city, so it's a little Italian neighborhood, along with our 3-year-old son. So when I'm not working or traveling for work, you can find us running around St. Louis and enjoying all the great things that the city has to offer. You can also invite me enjoying ice cream and pasta, which happen to be my 2 favorite foods, so it's a good thing I live in an Italian neighborhood. So really anything carbs is right up my alley. But so I am a registered dietitian with Bayer, and I sit in the crop science division. So just a little brief overview about Bayer as an organization, and then I'll talk a little bit more about my role, but then also that journey to get me from where I throughout my dietetic career. So at Bayer, we are a life sciences company, and we've got 3 divisions. So there's consumer health, crop science, and pharmaceuticals. So for consumer health, brands that you might be familiar with that sit under that umbrella are things like Women's One A Day and Bayer aspirin. And then our pharmaceutical division is more prescription medication that you can find through your physician's office. And then I sit in crop science, which is a division where our consumers are actually farmers. And we sell a variety of seeds and crop protection. And my role within the organization is to really connect registered dietitians to agriculture. So I will definitely touch on that in more detail as we work through today, but wanted to take a few steps back and talk a little bit about how I got started in my role at Bayer. So I actually, like I had said, I'm a registered dietitian, and I started out did my undergrad at Southeast Missouri State University, which is in a small town in Missouri, and spent 4 years there. Absolutely fell in love with my internship director. If there's anyone on that, had a special relationship with their director, it's actually who led me originally down this career path. So prior to, starting schooling at SEMO, and I always love hearing everybody's stories as to why they are dietitians and became dietitians. But for me, it started out personal. So when I was in high school, I actually had some stomach issues that led me to really need to watch what I was eating and what I was doing. And so I really started to be more conscious about the foods that I ate. And that also led me to take a family and consumer sciences class. And that's where I fell in love with reading food labels and learning about food science and really looking at recipe structure. So that's when I decided I want to learn more. I think I want a career path in this. So that was about my junior year in high school, and fortunately found that great internship director at Southeast Missouri State and started my journey there. So for the next 4 years, I really dove in and looked at all different aspects of the dietetic profession and went through the grueling process of applying for an internship, which I'm sure a lot of you on today can relate to, and was fortunate enough to be placed at St. Louis University. So I was thrilled to be able to come back home, be really close to all of my family and relatives, and be part of a dietetic internship that had a really good reputation in the area for engaging with the community and learning all different aspects of our career in our roles. So I spent my time at St. Louis University, they were actually really passionate about farm to school. So I got to spend quite a few of my rotations working in local schools, talking about how we produce our food and how food is grown. So I would say that's where my initial passion for agriculture really got started. So I started to learn a little bit more there. So I didn't grow up on a farm. I actually grew up pretty far removed from agriculture and how our food is grown. So I started to have these undertones even starting in my career in my dietetic internship about agriculture. So from my internship, I, as many young dietitians do, started looking for what career path I wanted to take and what I wanted to focus in. I knew from the beginning that clinical wasn't something that I wanted to dedicate my career to, but wanted to do more in the community setting. And so I actually had the opportunity to work for my St. Louis District Dairy Council, and was able to really learn about local agriculture while there. So I spent 3 years as a nutrition educator doing a variety of different things, from working in media, so doing TV and radio, and working on even newsletter articles, but also focusing a lot of my time in schools. So, connecting students and teachers and faculty with how their milk got to their school and the health benefits of drinking dairy. That was my first really initial introduction to agriculture and the hard work that farmers do every single day. So I spent 3 years doing that. I was out in the fields, in milking parlors, and then getting to see all of this great technology that farmers were using as well. So automated milking machines and state-of-the-art computers, just to really help farmers do more with utilizing less. So that was my first opportunity with that. And then from there, I actually worked for 4 years at a school district, and we've got some questions coming in, so thanks for that. I'm going to get to a whole bunch of resources here in just a minute. So working for a local school district, I was able to design menus and really do a lot of nutrition education. I was also fortunate enough to direct their farm to school program. So again, having this undertone of agriculture throughout my career. So in the role as director of a farm to school program, I was able to connect students with how their food was grown. So we put in raised bed gardens, and also sourced food from within 100 miles of our school districts. That included both organic and conventional farmers, and really tried to make that connection of where our food comes from and how it gets to our plate. So I got a question in, if someone is interested in learning more about ag and farming, are there resources you recommend, especially about myth busting? So this is a space right now, agriculture, with really, there's a lot on the internet. It's hard to decipher what's fact and what's fiction. And 2% of our population actually grow food for the other 98%. So as we get these further disconnects between how our food is grown and the end consumer, there's a lot of areas where that can lead to some confusion. So some particular websites that I like, if you're looking for information on GMOs, GMO Answers is a really great resource that has some consumer-friendly answers and anything from testing around food allergies to how is a GMO created. So that would be one, and I'll circle back to some of these at the end as well. Innovature, which is a website designed around biotechnology and gene editing. Again, really consumer friendly, but looks at some of the potential benefits for farmers for these technologies. I love bestfoodfacts.org. If you're looking for more information on pesticides and food and regulation, safefruitsandveggies.org has this awesome calculator that you can actually go on and put a serving of fruits and vegetables, and it tells you how much you would have to eat over the course of a lifetime to ever hit a lower upper limit. So I would check out that resource. croplife.org is also really great. So I'll circle back to some of those again at the end, and we'll be sure to, I can always follow up too with those resources. And so please keep your questions coming in. I always love to hear what everyone's thinking. This is definitely a hot topic right now of how our food is produced. So please circle back and ask questions. So jumping back a little bit to how I got to my role at Bayer Crop Science, so I was really passionate about working with farmers and knowing more about where my food came from. Because, young in my career, I saw some documentaries and really thought I knew a lot about how food was produced. And after working with the Dairy Council and working with the Farm to School program, realized I had still had a lot to learn. And, there's farmers that are doing all of this great work, but oftentimes that's overshadowed by some of the myths that are out there. So after spending a short stint doing outpatient counseling, I found my way back to working in agriculture. So I've been with Bayer in the crop science division for just a little over a year now, and have really enjoyed being able to connect farmers and registered dietitians. So that is my primary role, is to work with a variety of food and nutrition professionals, anything from those dietitians working in retail or clinical settings, even in academics and researchers, those focused on communicating nutrition, evidence-based information, and really making that connection between agriculture and our profession. So I love to see the enthusiasm from our profession right now around how food is produced, but with that comes a lot of questions. And so in my role, I'm really able to work with researchers and my fellow colleagues to help communicate that nutrition research. I've got a question about how to get started with a job in the ag industry as an RD. Since this isn't a traditional path, that's a really great question. So I actually found out about this job through a friend, but I will say there's a ton of great jobs with local dairy councils that you can get involved with agriculture in that way. You can also, really start to volunteer your time, or I would say even just going out on a farm tour when you can. So depending on where you're located, if you are able to reach out to a local farmer, generally they're very interested in helping to communicate. So definitely reaching out to those local farmers and finding ways to get on farm and just learn more. Also, outside of thinking about the nonprofit space with things like the Dairy Council, thinking about even in your current role, how you can have these undertones of agriculture. So whether you're in retail or even outpatient counseling, there's really an opportunity to connect how food is grown with consumers. In terms of what sort of skills are employers looking for, I'm going to see if I can click on the rest of that too. I think, communication is definitely a skill. I think that's in any aspect of dietetics professions is really important. So we have to boil down this really difficult and technical science into these digestible sound bites. So I know I get to spend 30 minutes with you guys today, but usually we only have like 7 seconds to a minute with some of these consumers. And so communication has always been a really important a skill to have. Also, that's both verbally and written. And then social media is starting to play an even more important role in our profession these days as well. So not being afraid to present evidence and facts on our social media outlets is a really good way to get involved as well. So there are definite career paths that we can take as RDs. We're starting to see more in the space of food waste initiatives as well. And so if you can, and that connects to agriculture too. So this all interweaves. So really finding something that ignites you and sparks that passion, and finding ways to get more involved are some good ways to do that. So please keep your questions coming, because I definitely want to continue to keep this interactive. But thinking a little bit more about my role at Bayer and what led me here. I think I was getting a little bit discouraged with the amount of misinformation that was out there. Being a dietitian that, young in my career, was more confused about agriculture, and since I didn't grow up on the farm, seeing documentaries, it's hard to decipher what is fact and what is fiction when you don't have some of those personal experiences. So really starting out and having that opportunity to engage with dairy farmers and realize that I definitely didn't have all the answers. I don't know about all of you and your dietetic internships if you had exposure to agriculture, but I know it was part of mine, but not an overwhelming piece of it. So I definitely had a lot to learn in that space. And so I would love to hear from you and, see if there's any opportunities that you have in your roles to talk about agriculture and how it all interweaves and intertwines and works together. I will say my job does allow me to go to some really interesting conferences and meet some interesting people. So one area of our business that most people don't realize is that we actually have a large vegetable seed business. So we do both open air and greenhouse growing for vegetable seeds. We've got 22 different varieties. So thinking about things like melon and broccoli and cucumbers, and those are all crops that I get to work in and help people and encourage people to eat more fruits and vegetables. So that actually led me to, I actually called in last week from Produce Manufacturing Association, which if anybody's familiar with that conference knows it's a massive group. I want to say there was 20,000 plus attendees of individuals just looking to help increase fruit and vegetable consumption. So I was really excited to be able to attend that as a dietitian working in agriculture. I was actually able to talk to some retail dietitians while I was there and really discuss how we can make these connections at the retail level, because consumers want to know, what the heck is a GMO? Why do I have non-GMO labeling on my packaging? They want to know what's the difference between organic and conventional. So I got to spend the last 4 days in sunny California connecting more with those dietitians and learning more about the produce industry. So I will say one thing, there's a ton of companies in avocados. That continues to be a trend going forward. Citrus continues to be a hot topic, and I actually even got to see edible stickers to put on produce to help increase adolescent consumption. So I will say there was a ton of fun stuff that came out of that conference, and that's one of the really cool things that I get to do in this role is attend alongside dietitians, but also farmers and produce growers to really, again, make those connections between what we do in our profession and how our food is grown. So I often get asked, why Bayer? So Bayer was formerly Monsanto, so I was technically a Monsanto employee prior to the merger between the two organizations. And so I was really drawn to Monsanto because locally it's a really known as a really great company to work for. And I think with my own misunderstandings in this space, thought it was a really good opportunity for me to help work with fellow dietitians just to present evidence-based information and connect farmers to our profession. So I felt like there was really a need and an obligation to work within this space and make those connections. So I'm not in the business to change minds around agriculture or make it a black and white issue. It's really about presenting information, providing education opportunities, whether it's on a farm or in a webinar or providing, even online resources, and then letting individuals formulate what works best for them. And so I'm here just as that connector between what's going on in the field and what's even prior to the field, what's going on in agriculture research, and then tying that into really where we find ourselves as the nutrition education experts. And so I'm able to take on interns, which has been really wonderful. Since I've started, had 3 interns with me, and I love being able to engage with them and see what kind of questions they're getting even as interns and what they're coming up against. So I would love to hear if anybody out there is RD2B or is in the field already and has questions or had the opportunity to maybe do an internship on the agriculture side. So definitely keep those questions coming in. You've had some great ones so far, and I would love to continue. I could sit here and talk all day about what I do, but would love to be able to answer anything that you might have. So keep popping them in, and I apologize again since I am on my cell phone. I've got a little bit of a limited view. But I often get asked, why do I feel like what I do is important in my role as being that connector? And I will just say, I've gotten the chance to go on quite a few farm tours, and farmers are genuinely wanting consumers to understand what they do. Many are multiple generations in and are just trying to be really good stewards of the land, to produce foods that are nutritious and affordable and accessible for all kinds of individuals. And so I think for me, why I feel like what I do is really important is just being a voice on behalf of the farmer for our profession. And so we oftentimes don't have that opportunity and that exposure. So really being able to be that connector has been really valuable for me. And as we start to see more connections between nutrition and sustainability, I don't know if anybody out there is going to Fancy, but I am really excited to be going this year as an attendee. And I'm excited to see that there's quite a few agenda items that are starting to connect agriculture and nutrition. So I'm really anxious to hear from my fellow RDs and fellow professionals around this conversation, to hear what is being said, what's being asked, to really continue to help to be that connector. So if you are going to be at Fancy this year, I am actually going to be doing the Build Up Dietitian event on Sunday evening. It's the 27th from 4:30 to 6:30. So I really hope to see some of you there during that time. If not, I will be attending quite a few sessions and we'll be out on the floor. I'm actually going to volunteer with GMO Answers. So if you are there and want to be in the expo area, I'll be with them on Sunday afternoon. So if you've got questions that we didn't get answered today or that you didn't want to ask, please feel free to come find me at Fancy, and we're more than happy to chat a little bit more about what I do in my role and what we can do as dietitians to really advocate on behalf of modern agriculture. Another question that I often get asked is, where do I stand on all types of agriculture? So we know that there's conventional farming and organic farming, and we continuously hear about all of these different types. So I will say that I'm pro-choice when it comes to produce and foods that you want to choose for yourself and your family. What I do want to do is present evidence-based and take fear out of food. So I often find, especially when I was working in a local school district, I was in a low-income district that was really I would see moms that were fearful of food because they couldn't afford organic. And they would say, well, it's not organic, it's not good for my family. So those misconceptions are just another reason that led me to my career and where I'm at. So while it's 100% choice, I do want to help ensure that dietitians, but also consumers, know that whether you're purchasing organic or conventional, that we've got a really safe food supply and that we've got great organizations overlooking that food supply to ensure that safe, nutritious foods are available and accessible. So that was another reason that I really, came to where I'm at today, is to help take the fear out of food. And I know that's something that Build Up does as well, which I just absolutely love to see. And I love this forum where it allows us to talk about career paths and what we do as dietitians. And so I would love to hear from you as well out there. We've got just a few minutes left. So if there's any questions that I didn't get answered that you have, please let me know. For those of you just joining, I do want to share a couple of the resources that I had mentioned in the beginning. As I had said, being on social media, we are bombarded with information, and it's hard to decipher fact from fiction sometimes, especially when it comes to agriculture. And so a few resources that I really enjoy are the Genetic Literacy Project, GMO Answers, Innovature, Crop Science, just through Bayer's website, has some really good resources and a lot on honeybee health and sustainability. We're doing a ton in that space too. And so definitely feel free to find me there. And Best Food Facts, that's another one as well. So feel free to check those out. Just got a question in about what are some of the most common myths you bust or questions that you get. Man, there's a lot of them. I would generally say GMOs, while they've been around and been studied and researched for, over 20 years, still get a lot of questions around what GMOs are. And the regulatory process that they undergo and the safety measures that are taken. So I bust a lot of myths around that. And then pesticides tend to be a really hot topic right now, especially with some of the media that's circulating around. So I like to bust myths around the fact that organic and conventional production methods both use pesticides. So pesticides is actually a blanket term that in agriculture it generally refers to herbicides, which helps compete against herbs, insecticides, which help control insects, and fungicides, which help control disease. And so both in organic and conventional agriculture methods, they face a lot of challenges, and there's a lot of things competing for that crop that they're growing. So while both are heavily, regulated to ensure safety, I would say one of the biggest myths is that organic agriculture uses no pesticides, when in fact they do use pesticides. Another one is that there's a ton of similarities, and there's actually more synergies between organic and conventional agriculture. So as I had mentioned earlier, it's often talked about as this black or white or two different categories, when in actuality both production methods are doing a ton in the area of sustainability. So I was actually out at a conventional farm this past week in Maryland prior to going to California, and the amount that this conventional farmer was doing in the areas of cover cropping for soil health, utilizing something called no-till, which helps to keep that soil really healthy and abundant, and doing a ton for pollinators and honeybee health. And so I think that other myth that I like to bust is that farmers don't care about the environment, or there's only certain farmers that care about the environment, because soil and their farm health is their number one asset. So if you talk to a farmer about what is sustainability, to them it's sustaining their land for future generations to use. And so really busting that myth that farmers aren't there to care for the land, because they 100% are. Otherwise, they don't have a business. They aren't able to sustain their family. So thank you for that question. That is definitely something that I enjoy doing, and able to help make those connections, again, between farmers and our profession. So we are getting close to the end here. If there's any last minute questions, please feel free to send my way. As I do that, just want to let you know you can follow me on Twitter. My handle is kbristowrd. You can also check me out on Instagram at Kelly Bristow RD. There I like to not only talk about agriculture related things, but I do have a 3-year-old, so I often loop in fun stuff that we're doing with him in and around the St. Louis area. Also, again, a few resources to come back to. You can find information on best food facts, crop life, Common Ground. If you haven't been on that website, it's a really great opportunity to connect with farmers in your area. So it actually, if you have the opportunity, whether you're in retail or in schools, whatever your profession might be, to jump on commonground.com. You can find some really great local resources for farmers who are out there advocating on behalf of what they do. So with that, I am going to wrap up. I want to thank you all so much for taking the time with me today and allowing me to talk a little bit about my career and how it's led me here. I've thoroughly enjoyed working for dairy farmers, working in school districts, doing some outpatient counseling and hearing some of those questions that consumers have and patients have, and then being able to take those experiences and really tie them all together within this role that I have at Bayer Crop Science. So I want to continue this conversation. I want to be able to help be that connector. So please feel free to either find me at Fancy, find me on social. I'd love to continue the conversation. Thank you all. Have a good day.